Hi guys, Monday, 4th of January. We are here. I'm at Harris. Good afternoon. I'm here with James. Hello, James. Oh, I got it right.
Oh,
Hey.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So if you joined us on Friday, we gave you a little bit of an intro to Here to Health and what the intention is for the forthcoming year. As we outlined on Friday, the topic for discussion today is going to be mindset. So we're just going to have a chat just to outline a few bits which we think will be quite useful for you to take into account when we as we roll through the month. And then we'll give you a little bit of an insight as to what we're planning to do as part of this journey as well. And then James got to go back to work, and I'm literally going to go and put my feet up. So, no, I'm joking. I'm working as well, just on my laptop. So yeah, that being said, I'm going to hand you over to James. He's going to give us a little bit of a rundown of what we've got in mind.
Yes. So what we've got, so coming up for, so I'll go over the month first. And
Yeah, do it.
Do that. Cool. So what we're going to talk about is a little bit of an introduction to mindset. Some people might not have been sort of thinking about this before. They may not have looked into it much. But we think it's a great place to start in terms of your health, because if you get your mindset right, then it's much easier to implement new habits or change habits that you have to make sure that you're making the most of getting your health to where you want to be. So we think that mindset is really, really critical in doing that. So that's what we're going to be going through today. We're going to be going through different techniques of motivation and also goal setting as well, because that again is very important when we're looking to improve our health. We need to know where we're going in terms of our goals, how we're going to get there as well. We'll get the action steps from working back from the goals that we set. So that's something that's very important as well. And also forming new habits and having things like accountability to make sure you're sticking to what we say we're going to do, because it can be quite easy to get off track. So accountability is really, really important to stick to our health goals and make it that habit that we want it to be, rather than just kind of a fad or a flash in the pan and then we go back to where we were.
Yeah. So less of a resolution, but more of a long-term plan. Because resolutions go by the end of January.
We don't like resolutions.
Our intention is obviously to give you guys some good foundations so that it works not just for January but for the rest of the year and going forward as well.
Yeah.
So cool. So I know there's a few bits that have been covered off in there, in particular what we're planning to do for the month. So that being said, I mean, do you want to give us just a little intro to sort of mindset? Because I guess there may be a few people who don't really, not necessarily understand, but sort of grasp the concept fully and why it's so important.
So mindset is sort of the outlook that you have on life. So last year is a very good example of how different mindsets can affect you as a person. It can affect your outlook moving forwards as well. So a lot of people will say 2020, thank God that's finished. About it again.
I didn't say that. I wanted to carry on. What are you talking about? Come on. Lockdown, tier 5.
Bring it on. But for some people, a lot of positives happened during that time as well. So it can be what you take away from an experience. I always say you want to use an experience as much as you can until it's finished teaching you lessons, and then you can step away from it. So even though 2020 was not a particularly good year for a lot of people, if you actually think about what happened, there may be some positives that you can take from that. And that's part of how your mindset works. So, for example, for me, we actually closed our clinic for just over 2 months. And it meant it was 2 months of time with my 2 young kids that I would never have normally had. So even though you could think, oh man, we're closed for 2 months, we're not bringing any money into the company, we can think about it as, wow, that was 2 months of quality time I got to spend with my kids. There was no chance I'd have been able to just close for 2 months and you know, have that any other time. So it's sort of what you take from experience, and what aspects of that experience that you really tend to focus on. So we're not expecting everyone to be like, 2020 was the best year ever, because it definitely
Really?
it
Why
wasn't.
not? That's what I'm expecting. Come on. In all my 40 years, 2020 definitely goes down as the #1 best year I've ever had.
Yeah.
See,
Really?
it's my mindset, right? It's all about how you perceive it.
But yeah, it's dealing with that and trying to change the way that we're thinking, focus more on the positives is definitely a key in mindset. And just altering the way that you tend to think about certain things as well. So when we're talking about our health, it could be altering the way that we think about exercise, or altering the way we think about nutrition. It's just making small tweaks, so you know, you're not thinking of it as a punishment or restrictive. It's trying to find things that you enjoy doing, trying to find you know, trying to use it as more of a learning experience as well. So nutrition is a fantastic one, because there's so many different options that you have with nutrition.
Yeah,
you pretty much learn something new every day. And yeah, and that's going to change your mindset. Having that mindset right, like we said, sets you up for whatever it is you want to achieve. If your mindset isn't right, then the chances are you're not going to do it, because you're going to fall off the wagon. And if your mindset's not right, it's very hard to get back on it.
Yeah, for sure. I think you know, without focusing on what's happened in the last year too much, like you say, it has kind of you know, put certain things into perspective which you may or may not have appreciated before, right? So even though you know, you may not have been able to work as much, the flip side of that is, you know, spending more time at home to you know, work on yourself, right? Personal development, whether it's spend more time with the family, or more time reading and learning, or, you know, more time exercising, or, you know, more time actually just chilling out. You know, put your feet up, having a couple of beers, or a few beers for 9 months, you know, whichever way you want to look at it. But regardless, I think mindset and the way you frame things is massively important as we, you know, start our sort of health and wellness journey and fitness journey, even to a degree, like looking at, as much as doing certain things which you don't really want to do can be a bit of a pain, you know, thinking of the overall benefit to you in the long term, rather than just that short-term act as well, is massively important, I think. You know, and when it comes to sort of learning and development, as we're going along this journey, like I'm gonna learn a lot about, you know, nutrition and supplement and wellness and all that kind of stuff. And I think, you know, from my perspective, you know, I'm open to learning that, because not only because I'm interested in it, but because it has sort of long-term benefits for me personally, right? And the people around me, if I can help educate them as well. So yeah, mindset, massively important. And I think one of the things you mentioned, obviously, habits. So, you know, do they go hand in hand, sort of mindset and habits? I guess so. You know, what's your sort of take on that?
Yeah, I think the habits comes after the mindset.
Yeah.
To have good habits, you've got to have a good mindset. Because as much of a habit as something can be, if you still don't have the best relationship with that habit, for example, if it is exercise and you think, oh man, I've got to go for a run for like an hour, And if you're thinking that, and for whatever reason, it doesn't necessarily have to be you just don't want to do it. It could be something comes up and you can't exercise as you want to, or you can't eat as you want to. Like I said, having that mindset gets you back on track and gets you back into those better choices rather than the ones which aren't maybe so good for us. So yeah, I definitely think that habits comes after mindset, but I think they do sort of interact quite well and help each other, basically.
Okay. So, which is fortunate because habits comes later on in the month. So after we've got the mindset right. I know. Oh my God. Who laid out this plan? That's amazing.
Let's figure this out.
But no, I think so. Let's start, I guess, with some of the fundamentals. So, in terms of where would you say is a good starting point to kind of to reframe your mindset almost, from wherever you are right now? Obviously we're talking in the context of, health, wellness and fitness in terms of what we're looking to achieve over the forthcoming year. But, mindset can be applied to anything, right? It's holistic, it's pervasive. But in terms of, starting the journey on giving yourself the right sort of foundations for having the right sort of mindset, where would you consider as a good starting point?
So I would say something that we are, what we're going to be doing basically, in terms of what we're recommending to everyone is something called journaling. I think that's a fantastic place to start because it gets you focusing on the positives of whatever you're doing. So, if you've not heard of journaling, do you want to go through what journaling is, Matt? Or
actually, let me. I'll show you my journal. So look, the super simple thing with journaling is, there are some prescribed methods, but ultimately it's just a case of getting a notebook and, spending 5, 10, 15, 25, half an hour, whatever it is, however much time you've got, just to reflect on, where you are right now, what thoughts are going through your head, concerns, like worries, the gratitude aspect of things, and just putting them down on paper. That is a very simplistic explanation of journaling. And for me, I started journaling actually during lockdown 1.0 last year. So in April, I started journaling, and literally the first entry was probably like, one line.
Mm-hmm.
What do I write?
Yeah.
And then it's progressively gone from there. So, throughout last year, I was sort of tweaking when was the best time for me to journal. So for me, I tend to get up quite early in the morning. So first thing in the morning, I'll spend sort of 25 minutes, half an hour. And basically, I do now have a little bit of a method to it, from different podcasts that I've listened to in terms of, stuff to kind of get the juices flowing, to get you thinking about what to journal about. But ultimately, I will include in there how I'm feeling right now. Definitely gratitude, like things that I'm grateful for. And, any reflections on the previous day, the good, the bad, and sort of stuff that I would like to achieve today.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it. So from sort of a one-liner, I think today my entry, and my handwriting's not great, but that doesn't matter because it's only for me. So look, this is my entry today. So I spent quite a lot of time this morning because it was the new year. I hadn't really journaled since just before Christmas. And there's quite a bit of stuff that came up. So I thought, this is a great time just to get it down on paper, and it serves as a reference point. One thing I know you're going to mention is in terms of not only sort of feedback, but also monitoring progress. So, there'll come a time over the course of the year where I'll flick back through my journal entries. I'll be like, okay, cool. So where was I then? Where am I now? Like, how has my thinking changed? Or, am I still along the same lines? Are there still lessons that I've learned, from experiences that I've had, like that sort of thing? But that's I guess how I've used journaling for myself. I know that was a rather long-winded explanation.
No, but that was good. That was good because it's, it talks about the progression as well from, what you said, you started with one line and now you're doing 2 pages.
Yeah.
It's something that grows as you get into the habit of it as well. As you get into the habit of it, because when you first, like you said, when you first do it, you're like, what am I meant to be writing down? Like how I feel? What difference is that going to make, kind of thing?
Yeah,
but
true.
It's building that, and like you say, you have that structure now, and that structure comes over time. We're not expecting people to go and get a notepad and they write 5 pages of how they're feeling, what they want to achieve, and all the positive things that are going on. I know when I started, when it was like, write down the positive things, like, I woke up. It's difficult, right? Because we're used to, particularly if we've not thought of things like this before, we use, like evolutionary, we used to focus on the negatives. So we learn from those and we stay away from, danger or a threat to us. So to change that mindset to get to a positive can be difficult.
Yeah.
But it's the practice of doing it and repeating it and finding the way that works best for you. So it can be as simple, as you said, of writing down how you feel, writing down 3 positives, writing down, 3 things that you're thankful for. And it can just grow from that point. It can be something as simple as that, and it begins to change your mindset to focus on the more positive side of things. And that will sort of seep its way into what you're doing. So for example, if you are exercising, if you are changing how you're eating, I know I keep using these examples, but it's quite an easy reference. If you're changing your diet and you're seeing it as sort of a grind of having to think of what you're going to eat, or how you're actually eating in terms of, are you eating smaller meals now? Are you snacking less? Are you snacking more? Are you, whatever you're doing, not eating after a certain time, whatever it is. You can be more creative with what you're cooking, with what you're eating. You may try different things that you've not tried before. You may try some things that you haven't in a long time. Like, oh, cool, actually, I do like that now. It can be, it can begin to alter things without you even recognizing that it's from the mindset that's happening, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And same with exercise. If you're thinking, I've got to go for a run, it's like, okay, I'm running that distance in an hour. I wonder if I could get it to 55 minutes. Oh, I did 55 minutes. Fantastic. That's a positive. And like you said, you can check back in with it and say, yeah, that's cool. I started at an hour. Now I'm down to 49 minutes. Look how far I've come in that period of time. I wonder what I can do moving forwards. So it's allowing you to switch and shift to a more positive outlook on things that you may have a not so positive relationship with right now. Yeah,
for sure. I think the feedback element is super useful in that respect. I haven't, other than thoughts and how I'm feeling at the time, and obviously the gratitude aspect, I haven't really recorded much else at this moment in time. But it does, like you say, it serves as a good sort of test and measure element to it as well when you start journaling. And like I say, you don't need to write War and Peace, like you said. And even just allocating sort of 5, 10, 15 minutes in your day where you give yourself the breathing space to just be like, okay, so where am I right now? Like what is actually happening? And despite everything that is going on today, right now, Like what are the good points? Because there are plenty of them if you spend time thinking about them. Because unfortunately, we tend to get carried away with what's in front of us, and when everything is not ideal, then your sort of your thinking, your mindset, the where your head's at generally tends to go towards the negative, right?
Yeah.
So what journaling helps to do is sort of bring you back to a point of appreciating and being grateful for all the good things, and there are plenty, like massively. Whether you've got clothes on your back, you've got a bed to sleep in, you've got a roof over your head, like you might count those as little things, but they're all positives now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's super useful. And I think so just to digress a little bit, the one thing that got me into journaling was I started reading a lot of Stoic philosophy during lockdown, and one of the sort of key tenets of Stoic philosophy is journaling. So people like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, they would journal daily, whether it's one line or several pages, and it simply takes them through the reflections of where they what's happened during the day or what their intentions were for the day, that kind of thing. And I think making, like you mentioned earlier on, not having to close the business down for 2 months, but spending more time with your kids, there's always going to be a converse perspective, a different way of looking at things, right? Which, okay, so maybe the thing right in front of you isn't that great, but you can always find the good in the bad situation.
Yeah.
Regardless. And I think that's one of the things that I have learned, and I'm continuously learning as I read more about the philosophy, but also as I'm finding out doing the journaling, which is awesome. So from my perspective, it's been a massive help, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you say, there's no right or wrong to it, which I think is really good, because it gives you the flexibility. If you're not used to opening up and thinking about things in a different way, it's a good way to begin to look at it and look at your situation in a different light.
Yeah.
And just write down a couple of different points. So yeah, I think it's really, really, really important to help to reframe us and refocus on what is actually going on and how we're feeling about things as well.
Yeah, for sure. So one of the, as part of this process, obviously we are going to, recommend some podcasts and resources and that kind of thing. A book which I am going to start reading actually this month is called The Bullet Journal Method. So I don't know whether you've heard of it. It is a simple method of journaling. So I mentioned, you can have prescriptive methodologies to journaling other than just writing down on in a notebook. I think the intention for me reading that book is not necessarily to refine my journaling, but I guess I want to start cataloging a little bit more, my thoughts. And I think the method, and we'll stick a link in the Facebook group and a couple of videos, which I found really useful. People are starting to think about journaling. But yeah, I think just cataloging that so that you can sort of flick back through and think, okay, 6 months ago, where was my head at? Or, what was I doing? Where's my food diary from January the 21st, 2021? What was I eating then compared with what am I eating now? And if you are, if you are journaling right now, perhaps a bit more of a
methodology.
I can't say it. It's in my head. A bit more of a wait. No, I can't say it. I can't.
You tried.
That's really method to your journaling.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's not the word that I wanted, but that's what we're going with. Yeah. But if you are starting to, if you are, as a result of this live, you're thinking about, okay, let me try journaling. Just pen, piece of paper. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. That's it. Methodical. My first language is German, by the way, just to caveat. Yeah, just start, pen and piece of paper, and everything goes from there. But yeah, resources. There's a few other pointers that I've learned from listening to podcasts and all that, which have helped in my journaling approach. So I think it'd be useful to share some of those as well with the community, so they can pick up and see what's fits for them.
Yeah. One podcast I actually wanted to mention
Cool.
is one which is like, each episode's about 10 to 15 minutes. So it's quite easy if you just, walking to work, driving to work, whatever. You can just stick it on, just get your mindset just altered a little bit and get you into that focus.
Yeah.
It's called Daily Boost.
Okay.
We'll put a link in the comments as well for it. But yeah, it's just one guy just talking a bit about mindset for a short period of time, and then it's done. But it starts you thinking that way. So I think it's a really good way to start your day if you can. And yeah, it just gets you off on the right foot. I think having that input sometimes, even if you have or you think you have a good mindset and you've got a lot of steps in place to keep you on track, just having that reminder as well, I think is really important.
Actually, so I'm going to do this Daily Boost. So here's a link, and let me do this as well. The bullet journal method. So at least get people. Yeah, cool. Okay. The bullet. Okay, let me put this in here. Cool. Okay, there we go. Some resources. We'll share a lot more in the group as well, but at least that'll get the ball rolling. Cool. So we've covered off a little bit of an intro to mindset. Obviously, we've spoken extensively at journaling and obviously the benefits that we've had respectively for journaling. How long have you been journaling? Just out of curiosity, how long have you been?
On and off, probably 5 years.
Oh wow!
Pretty much when we started the business.
Really?
We got into it more, yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I'm not saying I do it every day for 5 years, because that's just not. No.
Like do you journal regularly? Is it every?
I usually try and do
it week, or is it?
I usually try and do it before I go to sleep.
Okay. Nice.
Even if it's just like write down a line.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like a bit of a brain dump as well.
Yeah.
So you can sort of get everything down that you want to do. So it actually helps you go to sleep because you're not thinking, I've got to do that tomorrow and that.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I use it a bit like that rather than necessarily focusing more on the positives. There's a bit of that in there, but it's more kind of just it's a selfish reason, really. I just want to go to sleep.
Whatever works, right? Whatever works. I think there's I'm journaling once a day, mainly in the mornings. I'm gonna try as a result of this to spend sort of 10-15 minutes in the evening as well. I listened to Daily Stoic podcast, I think maybe back in October or November, where one of the guests said she's got like a one sheet. So basically she's got 10 points on there and a little bit like a brain dump just to prepare you for the next day. So, what music you're going to listen to, what book you're going to read, what podcast you're going to listen to, 3 things to be grateful for, which page of the Daily Stoic you're going to read, reviewing the previous day's one sheet, and there's a few breathing exercise and 2 or 3 other things. And I thought, yeah, actually that's going to be quite handy. That's something I wanted to get into the habit of doing, and I did it a few times, and I've sort of tweaked it a little bit. I thought I'd rather include something like this, something that I've achieved today, which, you know, I want to give myself a pat on the back for, or something like that. But I found that's really useful. So I need to refine that a little bit, and I want to get into a habit of doing something in the evening, which is useful. But in terms of, so yeah, we've covered off journaling quite a bit, and obviously the benefits are sort of giving yourself feedback and monitoring progress. Is there anything, as you know, as we're just having a chat in relation to the intro to mindset, you feel that we haven't necessarily covered off? I know, you know, we're going to go a little bit deeper in the forthcoming week.
I would say, in line with the getting back on track, it's also a case of not being too hard on yourself if you do slip.
Yeah.
Because if you have the right intentions and you want to get back on track, then it's not necessarily a bad thing that you didn't do what it was you were going to say you were going to do. So just being a little bit more kind to yourself, particularly when you're starting out on your health journey. Like, to go from one lifestyle to a completely different lifestyle and just expect yourself to do it 7 days a week, every single week of the year, is unrealistic. And that's, I think, when a lot of people slip up. They really, really focus on, I've got to exercise every day, or I'm not progressing, I'm not heading to where I want to be. And then after 2 weeks, like, oh man, I am knackered. I have had enough. And it leads to that burnout quite early on, which some people don't necessarily think about when they are changing their lifestyle, that it is going to be, it's going to require some energy to do it.
Yeah.
So being kind to yourself, being realistic with your changes that you want to make, a step forward, whether it be a baby step or a jump, is a step forward.
Yeah.
So I think focusing on that as well, that's one thing that I would always want to say to people who want a change in anything in their lifestyle. Don't expect it to be an overnight miracle, because unfortunately, not a lot of those around, really. Yeah,
true. That is very true. Be kind. Give yourself a hug.
Yeah.
Every day, just do it.
Yeah.
Self-hug. Oh.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You've got long arms, so you can give.
Yeah, I know. I can do it. It's fine. Okay, cool. So, intro to mindset, journaling, feedback, being kind to yourself, give yourself a hug. What we've got, some of the bits, as James mentioned, that we're going to be covering off throughout January. So we've obviously spoken about mindset today, but we're going to delve a little bit deeper into mindset and mental health next week. And then in week 3 in Jan, we're going to go on to motivation and goal setting, which I'm really looking forward to. And in week 4, we're going to go into habit forming and accountability. So just to give you a little bit of a flavor as to what's coming up this month, as part of this journey, I think, James, you and I have discussed, obviously, we're going to be practicing what we preach, right? So obviously we journal. So we are going to be journaling, or going to continue to journal as we go along throughout, not just this month, but throughout the year. But we're also going to give you guys some feedback as to how we're doing. As we mentioned in the live on Friday, we're going to be guinea pigs as well, right? So as much as we may be a little bit further down the line than some of the guys that are listening, there's still going to be benefits and feedback that you guys or lessons that you guys will, or that we'll all benefit from as a result of doing this, whether it's doing it more consistently, or changing our practice a little bit, or even getting started. How that feedback is gonna, what sort of form that's gonna take, we'll wait and see. Might be like a video diary. I think for me it'll be early in the morning, just woken up, really messy hair, tiny squinty eyes, talking into camera, saying, "I'm not journaling today."
Whose idea was this?
I can't be doing it. I'm being kind to myself. But now we are going to give you some feedback. So as we mentioned on Friday, bear with us. Obviously, we are at the start of the curve. We want to give you guys as much value and content as possible. But we're also just trying to adjust to the best way to present that to you. So if you have any suggestions or anything particular you would like to see, then obviously let us know. Leave us some comments in the Facebook group. If you haven't joined yet, head over to Here to Health on Facebook. Come and join the group. I know there's a few of you in there right now. I know there's some people that have been watching the live today. Thank you very much. Anything you would like to finish on, James, in terms of what we've been talking about today?
The best thing is just to get started.
Yeah, man.
Just get into it.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Get a pen, piece of paper.
Some paper and just write something down.
Start journaling.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll leave it at that. We will be back. We're going to be back next. Okay. So I know we're going to do this live. For now, should we do it on Monday? Like, does this time?
Let's do Monday.
Okay, awesome. Mondays, 12:30. No, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Mondays, 1 o'clock. See, we're live, guys. This is not Mondays, 1 o'clock. Join us back next Monday in that case, and we will be chatting about mindset and mental health. Until then, guys, have a great week. Looking forward to seeing you in the Facebook group, and goodbye for now.
Catch you later.